So, a little bit about myself. I am branching out into the online world to try to help people with pain, primarily sciatic pain, pain that radiates to that stays in your sciatic joint or is in your hip, groin, low back, one side of your back. I have found a technique. I'm 54 years old and I have found a technique that worked for me really, really well 30 years ago. And since then, I've helped people, friends, my boys as they're growing up, their athletic friends, um, just lots and lots of people. And I have joined a few sciatic Facebook groups recently, and I see that there's so many people not getting help or getting lots of different advice. And so I found these 4 simple exercises that really keep me in a pain-free, active life, right? And it's helped so many people too. So I'll tell you my story just briefly, but I want to tell you, I'm just going to give you a little preview here of why these exercises work physiologically. I've done a lot of research now in order to figure out why these are helpful. But I'll just start by telling you my story. When I was 24, I had knee surgery. I was on crutches, didn't have a lot of pain after the knee surgery in the knee. I was given Percocet. I really didn't take it. Then I would say around 48 hours after I had surgery, I developed severe pain in my butt, my SI, which I now know is my SI joint, sacroiliac joint, sciatica, whatever you want to call it. Stabbing, knifing pain, relentless, like relentless. I'm 24 years old. I did not have surgery on my back, never had back pain, never had sciatica. So I called the doctor. He told me that, I'd be fine. Not to worry about it. Take the Percocet. Well, I took Percocet, even though my knee wasn't hurting. It did nothing. So if anybody's experienced that, I can totally relate. Took it, made me sick. Nothing was helping me. Thankfully, I was working as a tech at a spine clinic. And I told one of the staff members there that I was having so much pain here that I couldn't really work. I couldn't work. So I needed help. So he was kind enough to take a look at me, assessed my pelvis, which at the time I had no idea what he was doing, did a technique that took him about 2 or 3 minutes, put me on ice and said, sit here on ice for 10 minutes. You'll probably be more sore for the first 24 hours and then you should be okay. So I got off that ice in 10 minutes. I had no pain after being in excruciating pain for 48 hours and not being able to, I already had knee surgery, but limping around even more so because of that pain. No pain, okay? So it didn't really come back for years. And when I was pregnant with one of my sons in like the 8th month or so, I got very, very, very bad pain in my groin, hip area. Of course, who's going to help a pregnant woman? But somehow I remembered back to that time where I had that terrible pain in my butt. I thought, well, maybe it's related. So I looked up a lot of things, in magazines, and at the time there wasn't really online, but I was a member of the Y, and I found something that helped me, which is a little bit of the precursor to what I'm doing now. And then I found out that, so let me tell you first, let me give you a little lesson. So I've used these 4 simple exercises over the years to keep myself aligned. It goes in and out occasionally, and I can, thankfully, because of these, I can get it back in. Now, what I will say, let me just give you a little anatomy lesson, anatomy physiology. I did take that in college, by the way. I went to JMU. So this is your pelvis, okay? So this is where the pelvis sits, all right? And on top of your pelvis, okay, let me show you the back of it. Here's the back of it. That's the back of your pelvis, and that's your tailbone, okay? And on top of that starts your spine. So here's your spine. Okay. So they're all connected, right? And these are all multiple joints in the body. You can look it up, Google it. You can find anything online now. Okay. So this pelvis is made of 3 bones. These 2 bones that are huge, probably the biggest ones on the body as far as base of support goes, this whole pelvic thing combined. Tailbone, big tailbone, and this is your first or your last lumbar vertebrae, right? So your low back, and the rest of your low back sits on top of that and goes all the way up to your neck, right? And the back itself is actually really small. This is your low back, right? Your low back. You have to protect your low back. But your low back alignment, from what I found, begins with the alignment of your pelvis, okay? So these 3 bones rotate when you're walking and move up and down when you're going up and down stairs, climbing a ladder, getting off the floor, whatever, right? So they're always rotating. You're walking, they're rotating, walking, rotating, walking, rotating, up and down the stairs, up and down, up and down, up and down. And as you can see too, let's see, in this picture, I'll get closer in a minute, not only does your back come off of here, but your major bones in your leg, your hip, comes off here. And actually back here, what I've learned is where your sciatic nerve comes through, okay? And there's a muscle that is over that. So anyway, what happened to me and what happens to so many people, it's so simple to fix if you think about it. So what happened to me is I was limping, right? And so I wasn't quite rotating my pelvic bones correctly. So one of them got stuck forward, okay? So now it's stuck forward, which means if this is forward and not level, then my tailbone is cocked, right? And on top of my tailbone is that lumbar vertebrae. So now it's cocked because they're all related. This is in the wrong place. It's like this. The tailbone's like this, and now my back is turned to one side. So for me, okay, and then the last thing is your through these vertebrae in your back come your nerves, right? Through these little holes. See this? That's a nerve. And that nerve, one of them, the sciatic nerves, goes all the way down your leg. So the sciatic nerve comes out of your back, goes through that sciatic notch, through your butt, and down your leg, right? So if you're getting pressure on your nerve, or if your nerve is stretched, you can get that sciatic pain. Now that sciatic pain can be very localized to the butt where I was getting it, the stabbing pain. But what I found over the years, for me, when I get it, it can also be in your groin and your hip and one side of your low back, sometimes in both sides. It's very common to be unilateral, at least starting that way, low back. And then if you don't fix it, like I could give you another example of as I get older, when it goes out, the pain is more severe, and I'm literally hobbling around, hobbling. And if I didn't know how to fix it myself, I would continue to compensate. So then I'm going to get not just pain in my hip or groin area or buttocks, but all down my leg, in my back. And sometimes when it starts with just the pelvis being out of alignment, if you fixed it, like I've been thankfully lucky to have been able to do, then you can solve the problem right away. But if you don't, and you don't know what to do, and people have done x-rays and stuff, a tiny bit of alignment, you could be out of alignment by this much, and have pain that no one's going to notice on an x-ray. When you're out of alignment like that, your sciatic nerve is also on a stretch, so you could get pain along the whole distribution, right? And a few times I've had, and I believe when I had that sharp stabbing pain, it was starting to intermittently go down my leg, but praise the Lord that I was with someone who could fix it for me, like align me. So anyway, what you need to do are 4 simple exercises. Oh, okay. So I digress. So your hips and everything come off of there. If you look at this picture, let me bring it over. Okay. this is your pelvic area. Actually, here's your whole pelvis, and these are your big bones in your legs. So that's your hip. And this is your sacrum, tailbone, low back. Anyway, these big muscles in your thighs and both sides of your thighs all attach to some part of your pelvis or hip. So if these muscles are tight, they can pull your pelvis out of alignment. But they can also be used, sorry, is my head in the way? They can also be used to put your pelvis back in alignment. So these are the muscles, in case my head was in the way. These are the giant muscles I'm talking about. Specifically the hamstring and the hip flexor, which is, I think, the iliopsoas, right? Or one of the parts of the quad. Okay? So, and then the tail muscle, the piriformis, you probably heard of piriformis syndrome, because that can grip the sciatic nerve, but that can also be used to realign your pelvis. So, here. When you realign the pelvis and you get it symmetrical like this again, then everything, your tailbone goes back into the right place and your back starts to become more aligned, right? So these 4 simple exercises, which are on my website, sciaticreliefwithapril.com, and if you're on the website, you already know, they're free. You can do them. They're pictures of how to do them. You have to do them in that order, because what you're trying to do when you do them, the first exercise, you're pulling your pelvis like this. Okay? You're pulling it like this so that it levels out. The second one, sometimes the front part of your pelvis will go over top of this part. So just ligaments that connect it will go over top of the other side. So the second one, you're spreading it apart. The third one, you're bringing it back in. And the fourth one, you're aligning your sacrum. And that helps so many people. Sometimes right away, like, the next day you wake up, you feel great. Many times you need, and then your big muscles in your leg, because it was out of alignment, think that they were in the right place before. So you need to do the exercise consistently over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now I would say do them forever, but I know how people are. You might not, but you should, at least you know where to come back to. And to keep it aligned and to retrain your muscles for the muscle memory. And then, if you've had, if it's acute pain where it just started, more than likely that's what it is. If you've had a surgery, I've had friends who had foot surgery, non-weight bearing, and started with the sciatic pain, and I gave them these exercises, boom, gone. Even a hip replacement patient, same thing, boom, gone. I was a knee. So anyway, sometimes people trip and catch themselves. That can knock it out of alignment. If you had a really hard workout, sometimes that'll do the thing. See, the thing with, now this is, men can have it too. I've fixed my boys. Okay, sliding into a base. That happens to baseball players. My son who played football, he's giant, 6'7", 300 so pounds, getting up and down and up and down and up and down off of the ground, and then falling on top of people, whatever. Same thing with him. I worked on my son so much, many times they would go to the trainer, and after like 4 or 5 days, they would say, "I'm sorry, I gotta ask my mom to fix me because you're not really helping me," right? And I used the same technique, same thing, same exercises. I can actually do it for them, and then give it to them of kind of that therapist did to me way back when I was 24. I can actually I replicated that myself on my sons, but it's the same general exercises. I actually did a Facebook video years ago because I was fixing some of my girlfriends, and I'm like, okay, well then later they asked me, because they stopped doing the exercises, what were those exercises again? So I did do that. So anyway, I'm branching out into being a pain coach. Now, for people that have had ongoing problems and haven't had that pelvic, the exercises to stabilize their pelvis, sometimes the pain is then progressed up their back, down their legs, whatever. And so I actually have like a progression of exercises that I have helped friends and family with to help with that, which is why I say, the pain coaching, it's a little bit more involved, but it's very successful too. And it's actually really good to get on like a pelvic stabilization program, because the stronger your muscles are, the more they're going to be able to keep you aligned. And everything starts with your base of support. If you don't have a good base and good strength, then you're going to be more likely to have an injury, or just you just be doing housework and have a problem, right? Develop a problem. So I'm happy to help. Go and do those exercises. They will help you. They potentially, like sometimes 2 weeks to a month of just doing those will get rid of your problem, even if you've had it ongoing. If you've just recently developed sciatica and it's been because of something that happened in your life, it's pretty quick. Of course, there's no guarantees or whatever, but because it's been so successful for so many people that I know, that I've told over the last 30 years, I wanted to reach out and help more people that aren't finding a solution, because, it's not anything a doctor ever told me. And as a matter of fact, a lot of, when you go to a chiropractor, they manipulate you all around, but they never teach you how to be able to manage your pain and your strength, so that it doesn't recur, so that you don't have to keep going back to the chiropractor. And I met a physical therapist years and years ago who told me that pelvic and spinal alignment was extremely important as the base to not having sciatic pain and low back pain. But I don't even see that, except for her, I don't really see that a lot of physical therapists work on the pelvic symmetry. They work more on the back problem. And really, if you think about it, if you fix your back, let's just say your pelvis is rotated and out of alignment, if you're working on your back, which is tiny, really, every single level, it might help for a while, but then potentially it recurs because you never went to the base of the problem. Now, that's not to say if you fix your pelvis that you're not going to also have to work on your back, because everything's interconnected in your body. And I certainly do that too. I have a whole routine that I do to keep me. I paddleboard, I bike, I can run. I'm not a big fan of it, but I can do it. I could ski. I could do so many things at 54. And one of those reasons is I start with the pelvic symmetry, stability exercises, kind of core here. I strengthen my big muscles in my legs, especially around my hip, and then my abs and my low back muscles. And then flexibility is really important too, and I do some flexibility. So I'm happy to coach you if you need more of a progression. But certainly do those exercises. You won't believe how much better you'll feel.